Hi everyone, very good morning and thank you everyone for joining. We have very amazing people here. Most of us were hearing this common saying and the meme was floating that जब दो NUJS के लोग मिलते हैं तो शायद वो startup शुरू कर देते हैं. So in order to understand if it is actually true or not, I have my NUJS team here and we have Ashish, Arun, we have Tanuj here, we have Akshita, Pranjal, Abhyuday, Ramanujs, Ananya, Parth, and a few more senior names you might not be aware of. So let's try to understand from one another how has law school life changed over the past few years. How have the new generation picked up the concept of entrepreneurship? But when I did mention about entrepreneurship and the idea of conducting this webinar, the first conversation I had was with Agarwal, and thereafter I wrote a post. And interestingly, everyone, the first name that everyone said was Ashish Arun. They're like, don't forget him. So let's start from the let's start from him only. I think he's here from batch of 2010. So what inspired you to enter entrepreneurship, and what was your idea of an unconventional role during law school days, and how did you end up picking this niche, what you're currently doing? So if you could tell briefly about what your venture and what you do, and most importantly, how did you become the first black sheep actually?
Yeah. Hi, Sammanika, and hello, everyone. I see a lot of familiar faces here. It's more like a reunion, so
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. And in fact, last month I went to college and it looked nothing like how we left it at UJ, because I graduated what, like a good 12 and a half years ago. So yeah, so it's been like a long, long time. So coming to my, like my story of not going for a conventional job at the end of law school and trying to do something on my own. It actually began in the second year. So there was this company in the US called the Dorbit Tracker, and some of us would do legal research for that company just for like some extra pocket money. That was the whole idea. And a lot of seniors were doing it right from the first batch of NUJS to a lot of my classmates and some of my juniors as well. And one thing led to another, and towards the end of the fourth year, I realized that, okay, legal research services, providing legal research services to American law firms, it looks like something that has a decent potential and something that we should look into. At the same time, I unfortunately did not enjoy my law firm internships. So all these factors came together, and I think it was the end of fourth year when I took the leap of faith. I remember I was interning at a law firm in Bombay. I wouldn't name them, but life was miserable. And after being called for a due diligence over the weekend, when they called me again on a Monday, I was like, okay, this life is not for me. I mean, so I cut short my internship. I spoke to a few friends, I spoke to my parents, and I was like, okay, this is the time to do it. I still have a year of law school to go. And within that 1 year, we'll get a decent idea if this is going to work or not. And if it doesn't, we'll sit for recruitment. The NUJS brand was behind us. So hopefully some law firm would have given me a job. So thankfully, it didn't come to that. And yeah, so started with a very small office in Calcutta, very close to the college in HA block. I think quite a few of you must have been there. I know I met Om. You came to the Calcutta office. So yeah, so we pretty much stayed in that office for a long time. We added another one nearby. And then during COVID, we closed all of them. Now we are completely on the cloud. There are no offices at all. Everybody's working from home. And yeah, so it wasn't like a difficult decision. And it wasn't like a crazy risk that I took, because I did the math. And I like, okay, if I go to a law firm, I'll make this much money, and like this is the ongoing package right now. This is what we'll make. We had enough clients lined up by the time we were starting to sustain the same income flow. And then Professor Bashir got me in touch with a couple of publishing companies in Europe. And so we had like enough work to keep us going for the first 2-3 years. So the whole idea was, okay, there's no real investment because we were building a service company. So I actually remember having a conversation with Ramanuj about it. Um, Ramanuj is on the call here.
Yeah.
So where, like we were talking about, okay, how, how do you go about starting a company? What kind of investments do you need? So on and so forth. So for a service company, we didn't really need any real investment. We took an advance from one of our clients to get the office going. And and we were in business with one desktop and one associate. So that's how it started.
Wow, amazing. So we started from Ashish, who's the eldest one in this batch here. We'll have Juieen also joining. She's from batch of 2005. But from 2010, let's first directly jump to 2023. So we have Ananya here. She's in her final year right now in law school, and she's already a founder of her startup. So Ananya, would you like to tell about your venture?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. First of all, I'm humbled to be here. I can see so many of my own mentors on this panel. And I have to say that they were, I think, my inspiration to even begin an initiative like this, because you see when you come into your first year that so many of your seniors and so many of your mentors are doing such big things in the field, and then you just combine that passion with the art of entrepreneurship. So to tell you a little bit about how sort of Ex-Curia International came about being was in my second year, and a lot of credit does go to the pandemic as well, because internships were being cancelled. I joined law school as this enthusiastic law student who wants to try every activity there is in law school and jump into every competition there is. And something that really struck out for me was ADR. So by second year, I had done a bunch of international and national competitions. I had won NLS NMC. I had represented India at the IMC Tokyo. I had done ICC Paris, and there was a good network that I had built till that point. So suddenly there is a lockdown, college shuts, we're all at home, and there's just too much free time in my hand at this point. And just one fine day, this idea sort of comes about that, why not start a virtual initiative to bring together all of these professionals and law students who are missing out on networking opportunities that I got to experience during my first 2 years of law school. So there I was. I think the first person that I must have spoken about this was Pranjal. And here I am bouncing ideas off him that this is what I'm thinking, that maybe we should start something in terms of like a blog in the space, in dispute resolution. And I connected with a lot of my friends and colleagues that I had sort of met during these competitions and conferences abroad. And within, I think, a few weeks, we had an international team ready of law students and young practitioners from over 25 countries working together in a completely virtual setup. And we also had the immense support of international advisors, ranging from people from Allen and Overy, ICC, HSF, international mediators, Supreme Court justices, all really supportive of this idea, this initiative that we were creating to basically have one platform, a unified platform of various ADR enthusiasts, arbitration, dispute resolution enthusiasts in one place. So eventually we started working on this idea. The board of advisors came through, the editorial board came through, and ECI was launched. Since then, we have built our way through collaborating with multiple competitions, organizations for different conferences. We have recently begun stepping foot into the policy space, where we're reviewing and being asked to sort of give suggestions for various different drafts and policies which are coming out by, say, ICFID, SEBI, the Ministry of Justice, on the mediation bill. And it has been an extremely fascinating journey so far. We are a social platform. We are a non-profit, so I wouldn't call myself an entrepreneur, rather a social entrepreneur. But I have to say, Ex-Curia International has taught me more than I think any textbook or any law school course could ever. But I could have never done it without the support and the platform that NUJS and the people at NUJS provide.
Right. So you mentioned Pranjal was your mentor through this journey. So Pranjal, do you now see Ananya as a competitor of Sama Exclusion?
No, no, yeah, not at all. Feel very proud. Actually, when I remember when we started, I think we did some podcasts also, together on the dialogue.
Yes.
No, 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 yeah, it feels really good. Nothing like competition. No, no, not that much.
Okay, Tanuj, are you here? I think you've turned off your camera. Yes. So we have Tanuj here, law students' favorite. Everybody knows Lawctopus, the impact Lawctopus has played in our lives in the initial years of when we are like so desperate to get at that first internship, and everybody is a for like mostly especially the first gen lawyers, they don't know what to do. That's the one platform which we all have referred to. So thanks Tanuj for that, for creating it. So how did you come into how did you get this idea of starting Lawctopus? And I remember when I was in law school, because I think you're from batch of 2012 or 13.
13, yes.
13, yes. So we entered in 13, and I remember like anytime when you used to come on campus, my batchmates used to be like, Tanuj sir, the Tanuj sir se milne ja rahe hain. Oh my God, Lawctopus founder. So tell us about your journey, please.
Okay, thanks for having me, Sammanika, and great to see so many familiar faces. I was a writer. I was writing for Legal India, Bar and Bench. My blog avatar was Legal Poet. So I was doing all of that. And the Legally India editor, Kian Gans, he used to reject some of my student stories. So I wanted to cover, I think, Bappa's election maybe. Bappa is Ashish, Arun, for those of you unfamiliar. So I wanted to cover their elections, for example, cover what agendas they had come up with. And the editor was like, sorry, this is too studenty. And I realized that, hey, these guys are rejecting my studenty stories. So let's start something, then Legal India existed, Bar and Bench existed, Life Law was not in the picture. So they were publishing a lot of good law firm stories and lawyer stories. So I was like, why not a website for law students? And fortunately or unfortunately, I had chickenpox around that time. It gave me a couple of weeks of bed rest, so I could come up with this idea actually. That's when it germinated. I went back to college. I discussed it with a few of my friends. A lot of them told me that, hey, you need to come up with something documented. You're not able to convince us. I did that, and we started as a fun college project. It was never supposed to be my livelihood, and I could relate to what Ashish just shared, that we always had the backup of the NUJS brand. It never seemed like taking a huge risk, or failing, because you knew that, hey, if this doesn't work out, we have options to fall back upon. That's the story in brief, but it's been a very long journey. Happy to discuss more as we go forward in the conversation.
All right. So next we have Ramanujs and Abhyuday. Everybody knows them because of the reels and Instagram stories and YouTube ads. So they have taken legal education to another level. So Abhyuday, Ramanuj, firstly, thank you, Ramanuj. He's traveling and he did try to make it because even there was I think some cyclone predicted or something where he is. So because of the bandwidth issue, he might not be able to turn on the video. But thank you so much. You took out time to join. So if you both could share your journeys individually.
Okay. Hi, Sammanika. Hi, everyone. So one is that my internet is so bad I can barely hear everyone. It's breaking even the audio. I'm not sure if I'm audible.
You are.
I think Abhyuday will speak. That'll be best. But if there's any questions, I'm on the chat. Happy to answer.
Okay, perfect. Yes, Abhyuday.
Okay, so I will share the story as I remember it. Personal experience of Ramanuj can be different. But back in college, Ramanuj used to, every 3 months, we used to partner on a lot of things like foreign paper presentations to moot court competitions and stuff like that. And he was every 3 months, 4 months, he'd come up and say, okay, let's start this product, let's start that product. And then, and he was very inspired by Tim Ferriss. And in 5th year, then finally, I was applying for foreign law firm job interviews and stuff. And I got to the last level and then I got rejected. And I was quite disturbed by that. And I wanted to do something really original after that. I was like, what can be bigger and better? than this. If I look at my career, 10 years down the line, what can be better? And then in Calcutta, we started something called a risk management consultancy, and we didn't know like quant, right? So we just did legal risk management stuff, and we did that for a year. And by then we'd both had offers from law firms to join, and it gave us a sense of people's pain points. And Ramanujs was also consulting startups, and I was involved in some of those projects. He looped me in, and then we just joined the law firm. And when we joined the law firm, we thought, okay, so we should be doing well, right? We are from NUJS, did well at internships, toppers, done the things that we should have done to be successful, right? But that didn't happen. We were actually realized that we were struggling in our initial months. I started getting a hang of things after 7-8 months onwards. But I was like, that struggle earlier was not necessary. And 1 year down the line, we saw that 32 of our batchmates who had joined law firms, out of them 24 had quit. That happened with our batch. That didn't happen with the next batch. For some reason, maybe the recession effects had hit them and they were more job conscious. But this is a story of so many NLU grads who join law firms. And it's really not because, like, it's just because the system didn't equip us, right? And so we started with looking at so then there came a point in time where you have to decide whether you're going to quit and do something that you really thought of and wanted to do or not. And there was this strange journey. I remember where we were going from Calcutta, we were going to Mumbai, and Ramanuj was discussing what all we can do. And he was like, look, I take sessions for law entrance, right? IDIA. And I know that if you can be a teacher, you will be really respected. And when we are doing risk management, people are always asking legal risk management, and they are like, what is your experience? What is your gray hair? We didn't even have LLB degree back then. So he said, let's get in from the teaching perspective. Now, all that added up when I was in a law firm, and I realized that teaching is the big gap here, right? And then we had taken up our law firm job offers, but what we realized, after about a year, Ramanuj was like, okay, I want to take the jump. And I was not able to decide whether I really want to do it. It was really bothering me, but I was not able to decide it. And Ramanuj was like, okay, I want to really do it. You do it or not, I will do it. And then I was able to think for myself. Like, in the discussion, sometimes it happens that you can't completely think on a standalone basis. So he said that, and then I was like, okay, I thought for myself. And I thought I want to take this chance. And we started that, and then we had a different journey altogether. Like, we collaborated with NUJS for online courses, and 2018 we started Lawsikho independently. So our journey was catering to law students first, then actually realizing, okay, lawyers, let's cater to lawyers, because they are in a better position also to pay, and they need more advanced training. They see immediate results also. So and if you cater to lawyers, law students will also benefit. And then we started to explore more and more opportunities. Like post-pandemic, international remote freelance work was a very important area that could lead to financial independence for anyone at any stage in their college or after graduation. And now we are looking at a wider audience, going beyond lawyers into skill arbitrage, because we see that many of these problems that we're dealing with for lawyers and law students haven't been addressed even in other areas. Apart from coding, probably there are huge gaps in the market in other areas for remote work, for example. So that is what the journey was. But yes, if you have questions, you can ask. And Ramanuj, if you want to say some things on this, feel free to.
So one thing that comes to mind is that, if you think about it, what is that NUJS provides extra for students that they can pursue entrepreneurship? Couple of things that comes to mind is because its location. It is unlike, let's say, even though let's say NLS Bangalore is in Nagar Bhabi, which is very far from the, all the bustles of tech companies in Bangalore as such. So it's really difficult for a student to go and be part of that. But in our case, we had Sector 5 right next to us, and we could go and attend, Startup Saturday kind of events and so many other Thai. You can just be part of the main entrepreneurial community in the city if you're in NUJS. That's actually a big advantage. Could be one big factor. Another thing that comes to mind is that, let's say, actually that way MNLU Mumbai should be doing well, because they are in They are also in Hiranandani, where there's a lot of startups. I think that the proximity of other startups is very important. Either you have a lot of startups in campus where you can come across other entrepreneurs. So in my case, for example, it was a critical moment that somebody in a senior batch, Ashish Arun, is running a startup. So for me, then maybe this is possible. And another thing was that I would go and attend this startup Saturday event. So I would see so many startups, what they are doing, how they are doing. I started frequently visiting the office of a startup in Salt Lake, and they kind of welcomed me because I was helping them with a few things, and I could see how they live in the same house and work from that same, like they have taken a house, and in some of the rooms they live and other rooms they work. So that I kind of modeled on later on, and it was so inspiring to see all the walls filled with a lot of what that post-it notes, their product roadmap and all. So it was very interesting and very inspiring to see that, and for example, in IIT Kharagpur, this other startup came from IIT Kharagpur, but because they have the culture of people starting campus startups, and they have they also had an incubator which was very active in IIT Kharagpur. And when they relocated after college to Salt Lake, so that we were in that proximity and we learned from there. I think that is very important. The other part is that if you are just a lawyer, building a startup is pretty difficult unless you know also tech people. You need to have either you yourself learn how to code or some kind of technical skills, or at least you can build websites and stuff, at least to get started. Otherwise, you need to have some techie friends who will collaborate with you. I think that is also a major gap for a lot of lawyers, where even if they want to start up, they really practically cannot because of that reason. So these are the few things that come to mind as points.
Right. So Tanuj left in 2013 and I joined in 2013, but there was only actually two seniors on campus whom we had seen as entrepreneurs. One was Jay Seta, known for gaming law and G laws. But the other person whom I closely remember is Om Agarwal. Why? Because he was that one person who would, wherever you meet him, around cesspool, around quad, around boys hostel, mess, kahin pe bhi dikh jaye ek senior, he would always talk about ideas, and like इनके पास इतने ideas होते थे ना, every single time he is talking about entrepreneurship. Like the first person who had that conversation with me in real life was Om Agarwal. And then after a few years I get to know, I just see that Om is not there anywhere. So I'm like, where did this person disappear from campus? And पता चलता है कि ओम ने entrepreneurship के लिए पढ़ाई बीच में छोड़ दी. Like he took a pause in between law school. He's like, my venture is more important than this. And then I think he came back after taking a short break. So Om, please tell us about your journey. What was happening in law school, and like where did you disappear in between that time period?
So I was sorry, I was always a misfit, like right from the beginning. So I started back when I was like 13, 14. Like I used to buy .com domains, create like a one-pager website, and then flip it over, just like you do with real estate today. So my interests were more in the tech field. My dad was very, very persistent that you gotta get into law, because he was always in awe with lawyers and everything. So got into NUJS by accident. But yeah, from day one, my interest was pretty much on point. Like so we co-founded, me, Rohan, a lot of seniors. So I got in touch with a lot of seniors to start something called as AIMCLAT, which was again just for law prep. It was a way to escape ragging mainly. So I was super scared of my immediate seniors. Ashish, Arun, he helped a lot. Tanuj,
Ashish thought he ragged you. The expression on his face. Yeah.
I like Tanuj. I kept on bugging Tanuj. I don't know how much he must have abused me, but I was pretty much like, every time you could see Tanuj in the library, like, so did a lot of things. We even worked on Lawctopus also. So did a lot of things here and there, mainly on the tech front. Then started something called as Easy Coach, where we created a platform for admission guidance. Like say you wanted to go to Harvard, you could get connected to someone at Harvard who would, help you with all the admission guidance and everything. So did that, sold that to, so while I was building that, again, we accepted investments. So obviously we had to, showcase the commitment and everything moving forward. So that's the reason why I took a 1 year break. And then I again came back, completed law the next year. But yeah, it turned out well. Sold the company to a couple of city bankers in UAE, and again, went into the same development zone where now we are working with a lot of clients, so both MNCs as well as startups, where we work with them on deep tech solutions, like say AI. Chat GPT is everywhere, so we work with AI solutions, we work with extended reality solutions. And yeah, so that's pretty much with us. We are into services, as well as we have a few of our product divisions like Whalepod, wherein we are building like a metaverse for events. Yeah. So
Just like always, Om used all fancy words to sound the coolest entrepreneur here.
nothing
Okay,
like that.
so now I remember in law school, I had a very close friend from the immediate junior batch, and she had a roommate who was known for her singing skills. But one fine day, suddenly people told me that she's turned into an entrepreneur and doing extremely well. On campus, we saw so many posters actually during one event which said in Hindi, "Suljhao magar pyar se." But at that point of time, I never got an opportunity to ask Akshata in person and also meet Pranjal. What exactly is Sama all about? So if you both could tell about your journeys now.
You are not unmuting, I'll start.
Yes, sure.
Uh, Hi, hello everyone. My name is Pranjal. Akshata and I, we are co-founders of SAMA. Basically, we help people solve their legal disputes without going to court, fully online, through online mediation, online arbitration. That's why Suljhaao Magar Pyar Se is something which we strongly believe in. I think we started, personally for me, like my mother was an entrepreneur, and she was and my other family members were working, but she seemed to be the most happy in the family. So I think that sort of, this might be a more happier path to life. And then I think more than, I didn't want to be a jack of all. I think just for once in my life, I wanted to specialize in one thing. I think more than solving a problem, I just thought, which sector mein can I just specialize? Can I be known for that? So I think first or second year we started summer, and there was a competition called Startup Weekend, which was held in IIM Calcutta. And I don't know, I'm not sure, Om, whether you remember this, but I think we were at the Pool of Justice, and I was asking you, should we apply for this competition?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we were like, we have no deck, we have nothing. And Om was like, just go, just apply, just start. Don't think, don't plan so much. And we did, we went for the Startup Weekend, and we won that Startup Weekend. And that's where I met my other co-founder, who's the engineer, fortunately. And so I think that's what I think. Seniors, like when we came to college, I think that was really helpful. Like Om, Jaisa, the hype leaders, we knew things were happening in the sector, so we can also explore. It gave us some confidence. And then friends really helped. Our batchmates are, I think Akshata and our friends were the first ones to distribute pamphlets of a startup in Salt Lake, Bada Bazaar, and try to get us cases. Although in the first 4 or 5 years, we didn't get more than 1 or 2 cases on our platform. Those cases also came from our family members to show support. But I think recently, during the pandemic, with the courts shutting, Consumer Forum shutting, we have crossed almost 2 crore cases on a platform, and we have settled almost 20 lakh cases. So that's been like the background journey, but Akshita, feel free to add.
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Akshita. It's cool to see so many entrepreneurs in the room, but to be really honest, I think I was just very sure of which space I want to work in. I come from a family of engineers. I was the first lawyer. Corp and lit it didn't align with me at all. So I just assumed, I'll be one of those who does law and then doesn't pursue law after that. Like I'll just have the law degree. Thought of dropping out and pursuing music. So I never thought of, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. That's an option. I was just very sure that when I came in touch with mediation and collaborative dispute resolution, I was like, this aligns with my value system, this aligns with me, I think I'm good at it. So there was a lot of confidence. Parents were super supportive. Luckily, I didn't have the pressure of having to go back and contribute monetarily and stuff like that. So it was very helpful that way. I told my parents not sitting. Senu from our batch was like, you're the only one who talks about mediation. There is this other guy in our batch who keeps talking about this. For the love of God, you both talk about this. Because I think at that time also there wasn't much happening in this space. And that's how we're batchmates, Pranjal and I, but that was when I was like, okay, hi, Akshita, obsessed with mediation. And then that's how our journey in NUJS started as well, with the Indian Mediation Week campaign. And then we just progressed into SAMA. So now when I look back, it was more like, oh, I guess I'm an entrepreneur now. So Sammanika, when you said, she was known as someone who sings, and then suddenly overnight it was like she's an entrepreneur, it felt like that for me also. I was like, oh, I guess this is it. But it's amazing. Loved it. And as Pranjal was saying, I think college was just a great place that way. Batchmates, whether it's juniors, whether it's seniors, it's so conducive, right? First of all, there's so much time. Like, it's not like a super intensive space. And the campus is placed like really well, as Ramanuj was saying. So going and coming and figuring out stuff in a day was very easy. We used to do mediation drives on the streets for like 3-4 hours. We would be those annoying people on the road talking about access to justice and mediation in Park Street. And at one point there was a man who sells hookah and he goes, oh, suljhao magar pyar se. Then we go to Roxy. So small things like that. It was a great place. But yeah, I don't know, stars aligned, and I love what we do. And I think it's so cool that there are so many people on this call, and I'm going to bother each of you at some point to know about your stories as well. But thanks, Sammanika. This is a cool idea.
Actually, there were a few more who were supposed to join. Rohan Kothari was supposed to join. He's into fitness now. Jay was supposed to join. He's into gaming laws. And then Juieen, of course, we all know from batch of 2005. But sadly, they couldn't because of their schedule. So we have a mixed pool of solopreneurs and co-founders here. So I want to understand how does having a co-founder help you, especially Pranjal and Akshita and Ramanuj and Abhyuday? And on the other hand, how did not having a co-founder benefit or created some space issues or maybe some areas? Because I struggle a lot as a solopreneur. Like, there are so many things, like I have to do almost everything on my own. And then most of the days I'm asking myself, am I an entrepreneur or am I a freelancer working with another pool of freelancers maybe? So how has that thing helped you, or for others, are you still finding co-founders?
Is this an open house for people
Yes.
to answer?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So as for me, if it's all right, I'll just share something just comes to mind. For me, I really wanted to do something on my own, but I did not think that I have everything that it takes. I thought that I can do a few things. And so, like there are things that Ramanuj does which are just incredible. And I honestly cannot take those decisions or take those calls. And that identity crisis that you mentioned, Sammanika, am I a freelancer? Am I an entrepreneur? Right there, at least I don't feel a lot of times that I have entrepreneur identity, so to say, right? Like I can say, okay, if Ramanuj is saying, okay, this is a problem and it needs to be solved, I might go and solve that. But if you're thinking that, so I still don't feel that I have the full entrepreneur identity. I might solve a problem, I might get something done, I might do something cool, I might do something that requires a lot of creativity or hard work, but it's like specific things. So, and for me to, if one person has to do it all, I think it's like crazy. So and I wouldn't have started if he wasn't starting out. Like I'd not have known that I really want to start out then. So that was like a precipitating moment for me, 1 year into a law firm. And we had this conversation, and we had been at a retreat in Dubai of the firm, and we had that conversation, and I realized that, okay, this can be the right moment to start out, because I don't have on my own what it takes, but together we might be able to do something. If there's a chance, it may be now. So I think from that perspective, at least from my perspective, having a co-founder was critical.
Right. Okay. Pranjal, your perspective?
I actually cannot imagine without a co-founder. I really feel like number one, I think it'd be very boring to do this. I think it's a very arduous journey. There are a lot of ups and downs, and there's all kinds of things happen. So I feel like I really believe the journey should be fun, and I think it happens when you have co-founders, but co-founders who match you in fundamental values. I think that is sort of a prerequisite. Like, and I think I was lucky that way. I was lucky to find Akshita and Vikram. I think our fundamentals really matched, and we have very different skill sets. In fact, I think we complement each other. That's why it helps also. Like we have, in fact, almost opposite skill sets. So if I'm a lot about quantity, she's a lot about quality, right? But somehow the outcome is a balanced outcome. So I feel like and I feel like the responsibility gets divided. There are more people who are taking ownership with the success of the company, and I've realized that in fact, it is better to share. It is better to share your equity. It is better to share your ownership with other people, founders, team members, so that the final account responsibility of the success of the company is not just on one or two person. It's a fully divided responsibility. I think that also gives you like little relief. So yeah, in my head, I think it's a very, very critical to have.
Tanuj, since you've been handling things solo, what has your experience been like?
Yeah, I think to be honest, you sometimes do miss having a co-founder. I think it does get a lonely journey, psychologically, sometimes very challenging as well, especially when you're growing. So who do you discuss things with, right? Who has your back when, let's say, you are not in action, for whatever reason. So it is psychologically tough to do without a co-founder. But at the same time, it's critical to get a good co-founder. If you don't, then things can get messy. As Pranjal said, the value match should definitely be there. Also about skills, right? Are you complementing each other's skills? What sort of a person are you? What sort of personality do you bring to the table? So it can get difficult, and a lot of startups die because of co-founder disputes, right? It can prove fatal as well, not having a.
Anuj had started with a lot of co-founders, so he can share some about that also.
And we got lucky that
How many were there, Tanuj?
There were 5.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
We started, but they went in their own directions, and they're doing. All of them are doing well, and thankfully, luckily, it didn't affect us. Any of the discussions which were not going right didn't affect us. So I think it works both ways. It's a 50-50 for me. Having a great co-founder, I would love to have that, but I think those come later. And those of you who have it, I think it is lucky as well. Yeah.
Right. Ananya, your challenges, if any?
I think I agree with what Tanuj said. I resonate his opinion that finding that person who aligns with your sort of thoughts, the way that sort of timeline that you want to work on, the decisions that you want to take is very important. I think as someone within law school, we do a lot of group activities, we do a lot of competitions wherein the success or the outcome of the competition is dependent on your teammates as well, along with just you. So finding that right team, I think, is very important. But when it comes to decision making, I think I've liked the fact that I have that power to sort of decide whether yes or no to go through with something. But obviously that support that comes from having a team and having those advisors to kind of speak to discuss issues with is very important. So while a co-founder may have been somebody who I would have had to first consult before saying yes and no, here as somebody who solely takes decisions on how to move forward, what to do next, is I think important, especially in like sort of the kind of collaborative space that we work in, because we're working in and out with people placed in very different jurisdictions, and we understand that there are language barriers, time differences, there are issues, there are personal commitments that each and every person has in say law school or outside. So I believe that in an organization like ECI, if there was a co-founder, it would have just become a tassel between two people trying to figure out what to sort of do next, when to say yes, when to say no. So that way, I feel like this having that solo sense of power is empowering in one sense.
Right. Okay. So one thing I really liked about NUJS was the approachability of seniors. Like there was no strict hierarchy. I remember we were clearly told no didi bhaiya, no sir ma'am. But that thing is traditionally still followed in a lot of law schools, and especially in the traditional law schools. So do you feel that that could also be a barrier where the fresh generations might not get the equal amount of support like we did during our days? Like for me, I had Om, Tanuj, Abhyuday, Ramanujs to look up to, and I knew that like I could just send a Facebook text. During our days, it was Facebook. Now it's LinkedIn, right? And I could just simply drop them a text, and maybe they'll revert back. Like I'll not have to be too scared to reach out. And even for that matter, like yesterday when I reached out to Ashish, I didn't have to like think 10 times that, oh my God, super senior, Shovik Das batchmate. Shovik Da happens to be our faculty now. How do we reach out? So do you think that is an important factor, Ananya, from your perspective?
100%. I think having that support system, just knowing that you can speak to anyone, no matter like no introductions. You find them in the library, you find them sitting in the canteen, and you can just approach them and say hi and just sort of talk about anything is very important. Like without that, I believe none of this would have happened. So that is definitely a barrier. I feel a lot of other law students, law schools don't inculcate in their community.
Right. Okay. So a lot of strict conversation, formal conversation so far. Let's make it more casual. Let's talk about how did you spend your life at law school beyond thinking about ideas, or like I was mostly sleeping. So my batchmates used to be like, "Are you sure you're in a batch? Like we never saw you in class." Because I had a friend who would keep my seat vacant, so I would enter like 2 minutes after the class starts, like the moment the teacher will start taking attendance, because S alphabet used to come very late, and then I would leave the moment the teacher leaves. So like most of the time I would be sleeping in the hostel. How did you guys spend your time? We'll start with Ashish.
Oh, I don't know. What did we do? We pretty much just chilled. We made fun of people. We were all, I think a lot of us were on the 5th floor. Ramanuj and Abhyuday, they were on the same floor as us. And I was very lucky to have a large group of friends in college. There were some 8-10 of us from my class, and about 7-8 from Abhyuday and Ramanuj's class. And most of us were on that one corridor on the 5th floor. So we'd pretty much just be there, like, and there would be like a lot of throwing water balloons on people most of the times. And then just sitting on the bench. We would call it "Chalo bench marte hain." So we would just sit on those nature-com benches near the cesspool. We would play a lot of cricket every evening. I remember Tanuj used to be a very fierce fast bowler. When he, like came to college and broke on the scene, we're like, okay, like we really need to watch out for this guy. And Abhyuday, again, Abhyuday was a very good opening batsman. So, I mean, I don't know if a lot of you guys know about it. So he gave us a few nightmares on the cricket field. So yeah, I mean, and other than that, there would be a lot of terrace parties. I don't know if people still are allowed to go up to the hostel terrace or not. We did not have those. I saw a lot of high grills have been put in the boys' hostel, and we didn't used to have that. And we had access to the hostel terrace, so a lot of crazy parties up there. A few parties on the cat block terrace as well. And yeah, other than that, every weekend we would pretty much hit the city, go to Park Street, hit the clubs, Ollie Pub. I think like pretty much everybody has that same journey when it comes to partying and spending time other than classes. Obviously a week, and you'd start studying a week before the exams, and thankfully the academic pressure was not that much back then. And I'm pretty sure things haven't changed much even now. Yeah, that was pretty much my law school.
So which batch was it?
I'd love to hear more.
Which batch was it which started the holy airstrikes? Like I thought it was the recent batch, but since you mentioned you already were participating in it.
No. We started, so I think around our time, a lot of things happened for the first time. We had the first Holi on campus. where everybody was thrown in the cesspool. We did not have that fountain and the lights. I think we have ruined the cesspool by putting all of that. But we did not have any of that. So right before Holi, we would get the cesspool cleaned, fresh water would be put in, and then we didn't even need to put colors. People would just, it would just be like different shades of red and green by the end of the day. We would also get a lot of thandai, and the good kind, for like prepared right in the mess. And yeah, I mean, it would be epic. And then by the art, so I think that started during our time. During our time, we also started the NUJS night. The first NUJS night happened in my fourth year in 2008. That was an initiative of the mess committee. Then the first NUJS Got Talent started when we were there. So that was in my final year. And then the Amazing Race that started during our time. So yeah, I mean, we did a lot of crazy things. I mean, the first Outlawed happened in 2005. That was my first year. Invicta started the next year. So yeah, I mean, that was like a pretty good time. I mean, when I look back at it, and then we had like 3 years of Professor MP saying while I was there, and yeah, so, and all these great professors, like Prabhash, Ranjan, Shamnath Bashir, Preetam Barwa, then Daniel. So I actually, like I was back in college last month and I was talking to the current VC, and we all pretty much agreed like that. I think that phase was pretty much the golden period for NUJS. Yeah. I'm sure Abhyuday, Ramanuj and Tanuj will agree for sure. I don't know about the rest of you, but yeah.
Actually, we had heard, like, during our time, we had only heard about Daniel sir. Like, I think he had just left when we joined. So, but with Holi strike, I meant the regular balloon strike you mentioned.
Oh, yeah. Because that would happen any day. I mean, we didn't need an occasion. Like, there was so much free time. Like, a few of us would be standing on the fifth floor. Suddenly, somebody will come with an empty plastic bag, fill up water, and start throwing on passers-by. And it would escalate into a full-fledged water fight, going across the 5 floors of the boys' hostel. Yeah.
And is it still there?
Not as frequently, but yes.
Okay. So how was the relationship of NUJS boys hostel during your times with NIFT? Because during our times, it did become a bit crazy, actually, I would say.
I don't think we had like a hostel relationship. There was a time, I think there was some incidents where some bottles and all were thrown from the terrace.
Okay, so like I think it carried on over the years. The same thing.
I think that was the starting point. That was one of the first few altercations that the boys' hostel had with their campus. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I don't really think that there was any animosity or anything like that back then.
Okay. Right. So Tanuj, if not Lawctopus, what else would you have done? Your voice is not...
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, now we can.
I don't think I was good in any other thing. It's a difficult question. Maybe I think I could have gotten into a bit of writing, a bit of freelance writing, journalism, maybe. Sports was definitely something I was interested in. I did consider a couple of times, becoming a sports lawyer or a sports manager sort of profile. But other than that, I don't think I could have succeeded in, let's say, litigation. That is not my cup of tea. I realized there were people far better than me in my own batch, could have never done in litigation, could have never gotten into corporate law. I don't think that made sense for me, values-wise or culturally. So I had limited options, Sammanika, and thanks for reminding me about that.
Okay. Akshita, if not an entrepreneur, what else would you be doing? Singing?
Yeah, I think I would have sung, but I was very, when Pranjal says we're the opposite, I think Pranjal I haven't seen him in any college activity. And you see me in every college activity, from the Independence Day singing like Vande Mataram to like Outlawed, Cult Com. Like my attendance was pretty bad. I was one of those. So was Pranjal. Like we were the people who would stare to see if we can write our exams and then go beg in the acad section. But yeah, overall in college, I think I was like quite a butterfly. I was running around, and I think cultural committee and all holds like a very, very like close part of my heart. So yeah, just outlawed, and it was fun to hear that outlawed and NUJS night and all of that started then, because we took those very seriously. They're like super crucial, important parts of college life. I wouldn't even go to class 2-3 days before NUJS night because we had to like prepare. So that tradition has held strong of what you guys had started. So yeah, Pranjal, do you want to list at least 2 things that you
Interestingly, there are no posters behind Pranjal today. Like otherwise, the first thing we see behind Pranjal is that, oh, there it is. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I don't. I think I would have gone for a job. For me, the startup started in second year. So I think I remember my college life as the startup only. There was because it started a little early, and a lot of our time was spent in. If you know the late Justice Prakash Banerjee, he was like the sort of a go-to mentor. So we used to go to his chambers a lot in the evening, and he used to help. He used to scold. He used to listen. So I think that was a lot that used to happen. But yeah, college was not hectic. The only hectic day was the day of debarment. The debarment list reached to announce. Otherwise, was quite chill.
I think there are few people like Justice PPB, earlier known as PPB sir, then Shamnath sir, Daniel sir, like whom I think a good number of generations of NUJS call as their mentors, because they've played a very important role in shaping the lives of a lot of NUJS students. And I think that running internship which PPB sir used to offer when he was a part of the bar has also contributed to the growth of a lot of students, because doing like not everybody was lucky enough to get a good internship during peak summer and winter break. So they had that option of doing that running internship with him after quotas. Yes. Okay. From the audience, if you have any questions, please feel free to write in the chat box. We'll like to answer what you want to hear from the NUJS family. NUJ interbatch dance. Okay, 2010. All right. So anyone from here have any questions for each other, please feel free to ask. Tanuj, do you have any question for anyone?
I actually just want to know, did anyone enjoy mess food in any of the years?
Wow. Okay. Let me take that. So the first few years, the mess food was really bad. Like, and then there were these 2 guys from my batch, Satya Pratik and the Siddharth. So he didn't have a last name, so we used to call him the. So these guys decided to take over the mess com, and then they asked me to come on board as the accountant. Okay, so I used to sit with the accounting guy, and he's still there. I just met him last month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would sit with him and do accounts. These guys, and Satyapratik is a brilliant cook. So he actually came up with new recipes and he started cooking himself. Okay. So out of the blue, one day we have this amazing jhalfrezi. I still remember that dinner. And he cooked food for 400 people with the mess workers. And then he started, and then like there was that 1 year when we were running the mess, and it was all like those guys were the ones handling the menu and coming up with new recipes and all. We had like mutton samosas and like amazing biryanis and whatnot. So I think that 1.5 years, the food was really good. And a lot of people who had never eaten in the mess, a lot of like our friends would like always go out and eat, a lot of Subway, this and that. There was no Zomato back then. So people would still like ask, if you're going to Sector 5, please get me a sub, and like, all those things used to happen. Only Domino's would deliver, and maybe there was this other place called Sanja Chula. So that 1.5 year period, the mess food really improved. Before that, unfortunately, no. Only the Sunday dosa used to be amazing. So long queues for that. And I think there was one day when the biryani used to happen. So,
Dosas were
from the first
legendary
batch of
even during my
NUJS.
time.
Yeah, I'm Juieen.
Dosas were really good. Even as a
I'm
day scholar,
Juieen. I'm
loved
from
it.
the first
Oh, Juieen
batch.
is here. Right. Where are you? One
Hi,
second.
hi. I'm from the first batch of NUJS, and first 2 years we used to have horrible food. But after that, we used to really queue up. I mean, we used to have Wednesday holidays.
Yeah.
I don't know, by the time I think you guys came, it was Sunday, but we used to queue up for the dosa on Wednesday mornings. And we really put on a lot of weight, eating the mess food. So it was, we didn't have Subways, we didn't have Zomato, it was very far away, but it was fantastic just eating with your friends. And we used to, 4 o'clock used to be tea, and we would stand in queue from 3:30 or 3:45. So yeah, good fun.
Yeah,
thank you.
Let me just add one thing. And since we have somebody from the first batch, I think all of us, should thank them, because that batch basically made NUJS into the brand that it became so quickly.
Yeah.
Like in their third year, this is a new law school. Just imagine the situation. You're a new law school, no real library. The building is just getting built, and you go and win Vienna.
Wow.
I'll carry your good wishes for my batch. But yes, it was a different life.
Yeah.
We started, our hostel was in DN 61, which I don't know if you guys have ever been there. It's a government set of quarters.
I went and saw the building. So my batch replaced your batch. When you graduated, we were the 6th batch. So I met a lot of your batch, and I interned with Deepankar at one point of time.
That's my husband.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
we just had the 93 of ourselves, and I think it is one of the most incestuous batches of NUJS. We all got married to each other, and we are a family. My first batch is my family. I mean,
in true sense, the NUJS family.
Yeah.
But we really owe a lot to all the hard work and everything that you guys did. And then when you went and achieved,
you're kind. You're kind, Arun.
No.
Having said that, we formed. You were saying about the first Holi. I don't know if you guys know, but the first Holi was played in 2006. And those of us who played, who are my closest set of friends today, even, we all got show cause notices.
Yes,
our parents had to write up why we played Holi on campus. I mean, and we had friends who were from southern India, and Dr. Menon actually stood and said that, have you ever in your life played Holi before? And they had to say yes. Oh, it was a different life.
So because of you guys and that epic Holi, we had a very tough time convincing the administration to allow us to play.
I can understand, but imagine your parents getting a letter saying your child played Holi, and we were all of 18, right? Just straight out of 12. Yeah. Please explain that she will not do this behavior again. My father is like, what is this I've received? So and we had the first RPC. I don't know what you call it now. The recruitment.
It's called RPC.
Yeah. And by Jove, I mean, for 1 year, we just argued how we should roll out recruitment. But it was fantastic. Yeah.
I think all the upcoming RCCs and CRCs should thank the first batch for that. Also, if you could share Professor Menon's perspective of the way he used to handle things, because I think his style of running administration was entirely different from how things happened in the later years. So if you could share from your experience.
He was a very strict disciplinarian, and a very good administrator. Otherwise, to start anything from scratch and to build something, it takes a lot of discipline. It takes, immense amount of discipline. And he inculcated that in the teachers. You guys, I don't know if you have read, but we used to have a history professor, I think, called G. Ajay. And G. Ajay, when Dr. Menon passed away, he wrote a piece, his memories of Dr. Menon, and all of you should read that. It really says, so he says that, the students loved him, but the teachers had a lot of problems because he would really be strict on them. But it was not possible without that partnership. And we all came from, schools where we had not seen this partnership. It was a really interactive. I mean, someone was saying that, I think Sammanika, you were saying that someone used to, save a seat, for you.
Yes.
We all have those memories, but it was fun, and it was a different way of looking at, a subject, which was the best part of, I think, NUJS has been probably the best thing that has happened to me, at least, apart from, finding my partner, my friends. I mean, the way it helped me ask questions about life in general. And Dr. Menon said that, I was speaking to someone from National Law School, and that person was saying that Dr. Menon started National Law School thinking that the bar will be so much more enriched. And look, we only had produced corporate lawyers, and he came to and started NUJS thinking that we will be all social engineers, and we all became entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs, yes. Right.
So fantastic. I mean, NUJS probably is the best thing. After having my son, it's the best thing that happened to me. I mean, I would have been a different person if it was not for NUJS.
Super. As a day scholar, how was your life different from all of what you were hearing? The mess food, the holy parties. Did you suddenly feel a FOMO or something?
Absolutely. So you pretty much felt like a outsider to many of the conversations. So my you can call it brother, like Nikunj was also like, he was also from Kolkata, but he used to be in the hostel. So I could feel like, you were not a part of many conversations and all. But yeah, it was fun. But if I had a chance to go back to college again, it would obviously be staying at the hostel. So yeah.
Do you think you'll be able to enjoy the mess food?
Absolutely. So I love the dal, even though it was like, it was more like water or something, but it was the people around you. So for me, the people being a day scholar, it was during those times I could actually, see the entire hostel life and all. So I enjoyed lunch. So yeah.
Interestingly, the NUJS menu on the Facebook page looks so fancy, as if it sounds like a 5-star hotel. Like there are cheese balls, there are chole bhature, there are mutton momos, and like I think last year during one of the days on NUJS Alumni group, the menu was floating. That look what is being offered. But I remember when I was in law school, Siddharth, again another mess com head was Siddharth during our time also. So we had just returned from vacations, and that initial first half month where not many students return, they don't cook enough items. So for continuous 15 to 20 days, they had paneer. And like being a pure vegetarian, like I was like, I cannot have this paneer for 15 days back to back. So I ended up writing a mail to Siddharth that's, listen, these are the list of vegetables which are available. I sent him the link of vegrecipeindia.com. I said,
no worries. So till she comes back. Okay, she's back. Okay,
yeah,
okay.
I'm so sorry for the internet.
No worries.
Yes. So I wrote an email that, sorry, we can't have these paneer dishes for 15 days. And I sent him the link of Veg Recipe India also. Like, these are the number of vegetables which are available in India. Can you please make it? And Siddharth called me and said, Sammanika, listen, मेरे को कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है, मुझे टेस्ट का ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पता है, तू एक काम कर, तू मेस्कॉम ज्वाइन कर ले. And then you decide the menu. So for next 1.5 month, I banned paneer. And then all my batchmates were like, where is paneer? So that was a freedom NUJS gave as students. Like we ran so many committees. Now I remember during my Army SSB interview, they gave me some hypothetical conditions in terms of leadership related challenges, that if you have to conduct this kind of an event or maybe something like this, sports related. So the fact that NUJS had given us so much of exposure and liberty to handle those responsibilities. RCC was student run, even SJ was student run. And most importantly, the best thing I liked about NUJS was the elections. Like it was not like the typical college elections people are aware of. It was so funny during my time, like Aditya Iyer, Akshat, Arjun, Samarth, when these guys became the president and vice president. It was so simple, like two people competing. By the end, it would mostly happen that like one is winning because the other person is by himself stepping down, or even if it was those two people, there were no fights. But am I wrong? Like because of your because since you're laughing, so during your time, were the things different? Because during our time, it was very peaceful, and I really like that kind of a democracy, I would say.
We had democracies. I mean, yeah, I mean, the whole election thing was again started from the first batch. But I think for the first 5 years, they were like five different presidents from the same batch. So after that, when like when once you got to the point where you had five batches on campus, and then usually it would be somebody from the senior most batch who would be the president. And elections would be contested very heavily. I remember in my first year, like we were really scared as first years because the outgoing president was a very close friend of ours, and the incoming group was not so friendly. So, so that was very tricky. Then I obviously have like very fond memories of my own election. So I ran for president in my fourth year, and the guy I was up against was pretty much the most popular guy on campus. So it was a very closely contested election. I think the margin was like some 10, 12 votes or something. No, one vote was Mambo and Satyapratik the next year. So yeah, so mine was about like some 10, 12 votes. And the next year, my vice president ran for president against my own batchmate. And there the margin was 1 or 2 votes. And we did not, like expect the margin to be that close. In fact, as a joke, I was going to vote for the other guy, but better sense prevailed. So elections were very closely contested because the SJ also had like a huge role back then, in a way that there were a lot of new things that we were still trying to do. And like, for example, like one of the major issues back then in our time was the auditorium. Now the auditorium had been half built and nothing was happening for years. So so that was one of the agendas that we were working on. And then we got a complete, like we actually hit a roadblock with the EC. So like the EC was not at all interested in releasing funds, and they were being very stingy. The vice chancellor did not have much, like he was also feeling stifled. So what the SJ did was we wrote to the CJI at that point. And the CJI, and then one of the Supreme Court judges, he was coming to attend the EC meeting. So we reached out to him before the meeting, and my friend like Aditya Kapoor was my vice president. So him and we jotted down everything that we wanted to be done, and we went straight away to the Supreme Court judge. We presented him our memo, and he just wrote one line that table it in the EC meeting. And this was within a week of our election, and everything that we had promised, it all got taken care of in that one meeting. And then in that year, we got the auditorium done. The NUJS.edu email IDs were set up because there was a lot of bureaucracy back then. So we were able to, like navigate through all of that, and the SJ and because of that, I think it the role that the SJ played was really important. I really feel that is what it should be even now also. And because that leadership that you get, that experience of leadership that you get while you're in college, that also, like gave me that belief that, okay, if I start a company, I will be able to lead people. Because again, like since I was still in college, and the first 5 people I hired, they were all lawyers with degrees and experience. One guy was from our college, he was a senior. So like that, it gave me that belief. It also helped in getting that belief that you can lead an organization because you've led your peers.
Yeah. So, right. Abhyuday, are you here or have you left? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. One important question I have before you leave is how, like the way entrepreneurship looks so glossy from outside, and with Shark Tank and all, during pandemic we saw so many law students being very enthused about writing founder, co-founder, and things like that. do these tags actually matter so much? And is entrepreneurship actually that glossy from inside also? Would you like to share your insights from the other side of it, from in terms of hiring people, in terms of managing people, in terms of responsibilities, everything?
Okay, so it's you got to it's always backbreaking, yeah, and it's it's a stress on you psychologically every which way possible. Okay, but the only thing on the other side is that you get to learn and be a different person each time. And I might still make the most rookie mistake that I might not have made even 2 years after starting IP leaders, but I might still make that now if I have not been in touch with something. A lot of things can happen, everything possible can go wrong, and more breakdowns can come when you least expect it. Okay, so entrepreneurship is definitely not comfortable. Okay, and I had thought that maybe I'll quit a law firm and I can at least plan out and have more vacations and stuff. Right. And now I see my friends in law firms have become partners, many of them taking lots of long vacations and stuff. But as an entrepreneur, while I'm not doing that now, I know that it is possible and I am responsible for carving a future out for myself like that. Like, and if I don't create it, it's not going to happen. So it is
Right.
100% responsibility on you. When we are hiring someone who's been an entrepreneur, what they did as an entrepreneur is very important. Being a failed entrepreneur is a great tag. Okay, this is one tag where you fail and it's great. But what you did as an entrepreneur that you failed at, what were your learnings? That is very important. Otherwise, it becomes like being a part of so many college committees which are defunct, starting them and not doing anything, right? I myself had started in college, not done anything in, and been part of a couple of committees. So then it's no use. Right? But if you tried something genuinely and got some results and then you quit, then it's okay.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
that's value. And you know that the point is that if somebody started a venture and they are now quitting it, if they are willing to take that kind of responsibility and play like, I would call it an open-ended game or an out of syllabus role. That is why people want to hire a field entrepreneur, because they can do outside KRA problem solving. Okay, so that's where it counts.
Right. But doing it for the sake of that validation, because I think that cool lagta hai bahut, wala FOMO people have these days. So do you recommend doing that?
Look, if you're not comfortable doing it, then till when will you last saying that it is cool, right? Like if you don't have money hitting the bank account, you don't have growth, you don't have paying customers, then what will you do? Correct. So you will automatically give up based on that. But if you are serious about what you're doing, you might start because cool lagta hai, right? My dad fancies for me, like, he fancies some having a son who will have like build an empire of thousands of crores and stuff like that. Okay. And I've seen him working incredibly hard in his career. And from there, I think I've taken on working hard. But like, and I know that somewhere like I want to fulfill that dream. I don't know if I like how every day it takes a huge challenge, but I think that somewhere I might have adopted that vision. Okay, whether it's mine, whether it's for fulfilling, I'm very clear it's mine, but it might also be for, okay, this will make sense in the grander scheme of things. So I would not say that you just do it for validation, but if you actually own it up after that, you might start for whatever reason, but you own it up after that, it might actually work.
Okay. Great. Great. Thank you so much, Abhyuday, for joining. I know you have a meeting. So
Thank you,
thank you for
Sammanika,
joining.
and thank you everybody else. It was great to meet everyone after so long.
Let's stay in touch.
Yes.
Yes, coming to you, Tanuj, what are the key challenges you faced as a young entrepreneur, and especially for law students who are now aspiring to become entrepreneurs, especially edtech people think that is the easiest way to enter, right? A lot of them are finding loopholes in the teaching space and want to come up with new products. So what would be your advice? What were your key challenges, especially in terms of hiring, in terms of retaining talent and other things?
Yeah, I think one of the key challenges which I'm currently facing is a realization that perhaps the legal industry in India is not huge. So to create a very big company in India in the legal space, perhaps there's no market for that. That's a current challenge. There was a challenge which I faced maybe 5 years down the line or 6 years down the line, when the vision with which I'd started Lawctopus, which was to create the go-to website for law students, was achieved. And it caused at least a couple of years of, I would call it existential crisis, where I didn't know what I want to do. Because I had achieved that and I was like, hey, now what? And so that was not a comfortable space to be in. I think asking yourself the question, what next? It can be painful, and perhaps one has to go through that painful journey a bit. Maybe it's part of the process. In terms of hiring, I think going remote has made life easier, because I had come to Chandigarh, which is a smaller city. A lot of people call it a town. And attracting talent in Chandigarh was a huge challenge. I never thought it would be a challenge in a smaller city. I was like, why not? We have the reach and, people will apply. Chandigarh has some good universities, but it became a challenge. I had to run behind people who I would call average in terms of skill. But getting remote has made hiring easier. Retaining talent is something which I'm currently getting good at. I don't think, we are good at it. Even in terms of hiring people, I want to become better at it. It is sometimes the need of the hour. Yes.
Okay. Om, since you've mentioned a lot about investments, your intake on investment, should freshers who are entering into entrepreneurship think about investment from day one, or should they bootstrap and then go about it? What are your learnings and experiences?
It completely depends on, the type of business one is doing. So if it's a service business, like say, for example, Timespade that I'm doing, as Ashish said, it doesn't really require any investment. It requires few advances from your clients, right? So I wouldn't suggest investment for that. But even if you are building a product, like in both my ventures, I took investment pretty early on. Like even Whalepod, which I did last year, we raised around when it was just like, a white paper like we used to build for each and every semester we had. So, but it was purely because, again, like what kind of work are you doing? Is it like a very scalable platform that like, like a Facebook or something which can grow? Then obviously you need to raise funds, otherwise you won't be anywhere. But if it is something like, which you can create like a very smaller version of it, without needing external funds, I would say go for it, because that will give you a lot of confidence, and you like, you will have a better negotiating power with investors that way. Yeah.
Okay, great. Pranjal, Akshata, are you here? Can you hear me? Yes. So these days, people try to have that their own self-identity attached with their brands, and that's why most of them try to see each other as competitors. But like Ananya and you spoke, like you were encouraging her, and other platforms also. Like I saw Ananya commenting on COD Badri's post also recently, congratulating them. So how much does collaboration help in the entrepreneurship instead of treating every second person as your competitor?
Yeah, I think, like, to be honest, I think we've not been very worried about competition. I think we always keep an eye on competitors. We always want to know what they're doing, what are there any different approaches they're taking, is something we can learn from them. But there's no negativity as such. I hope he doesn't do well. I think the source is cooperation, and if there are opportunities where we can do something together, we'll do it. So I think that's what I think at SAMA we try to say, like, let's keep an eye on competitors. Let's see what we can learn from it. Let's not be envy. Let's not have, because that's just, that the source becomes very negative, and we don't want something negative to drive us to work harder. We'll do this. We'll maybe do it 1 year later. They might do it 6 months earlier. So it's okay. It's fine. So I think that's the sort of mindset we have towards competition. More of like a healthy competition or cooperation towards.
Hey, Akshata, you want to add something?
Yeah, we actually have a really, really great relationship with most of our competitors, who from outside you would say is like even Badri and all, like they're doing such amazing work, right? We were like one of the first few people who reached out, and we were like, kill it, because I think even the sector that we're in, the more of us who are working on it, it's just overall better for each of us as well. I think that way yeah, as Pranjal said, we have almost like a policy where it's silly to look at it in an adversarial manner. It literally helps no one. So it just works out for that. And in general, also, like, to all the questions that, you know, you were asking, and I was thinking about, you know, what my answer would be. I personally find it so funny in a way that when it comes to entrepreneurship, it's always a retrospective story that gets played out, right? Like, we're just navigating the heck out of these waters. And then like 2 years like later, I can tell you, oh yeah, like even the question about bootstrapping, and I was listening and I was like, it's so dependent on where you are, what the timing is, who you're around. You have mentors, you have champions, you have detractors. Like, it's just so many things. And all the books that we read, I think Pranjal and I, like, we're constantly looking at other entrepreneur stories and what they did. And there are so many learnings. It's amazing. But I keep wondering, oh, if I'd asked this man on that day, you know, would he have said the same thing? Probably not. Now, like 20 years later, he's written a book, and then we learn from it and we follow some of that as well. But it's so timing based that, so that's what, if anyone wants to venture into this, you should with caution. And if there are any learnings you can take from all of us, for sure. But nothing will really, like, you know, get fixed based on what our journeys have been or what we've done. Pakka in 3 more years, I can tell you something that if you had asked me today about yesterday, I would say something completely different. So I always find it so tricky when we're talking about these things. But yeah, it's always such a pleasure to hear other entrepreneur stories, though. I mean, you can't leave that conversation without learning something.
Such an honest answer. Thank you so much. So, Ananya, the floor is for you. If you have any question for anyone, feel free to ask, and then we'll close the session.
I do actually. So right now, I'm in my final semester, and that's the traditional OLT NUJS semester of law school. So my question to all of you is, you know, what is your one advice or one have to do thing before law school sort of ends and we enter into work life and professional life?
Enjoy college. Because you can never go back, right? Like, you can always do your ventures or everything, but again, like, don't miss out on the college experience. I missed out on that, and I regret that the most. So yeah, just have fun.
Yeah, because last year of college, again, in my case also, I was building the company. So the first 4 years were completely opposite to how my final year went. The first 4 years, we were pretty much partying and like doing everything wrong that we could do in college. And 5th year, all my friends have all these amazing memories. And I'm like, okay, why don't I remember this? And the answer is, oh, because you were not there. And that is something that it's, again, I mean, building the company was the right thing to do. But yeah, that balance, because this is not going to come back. So yeah, I think, yeah, just have fun.
I would add, just please travel Calcutta as well. There are so many places I missed while being in Calcutta. And, you know, you can then, if you are like me in Chandigarh, it becomes a challenge, right? So, yeah.
My Facebook bio line was #Sole Beta Mauka Hai in the final semester. So, because uske baad time nahi milta hai. So, yeah. Pranjal, Akshita, anything you want to add?
I think even I never gave Calcutta a shot. I was so like in love with Bangalore. I was like, Bangalore rocks. Anytime I get whatever, I would come back home. But now when I look back and think I didn't go for any Durga Puja and I was in Calcutta for 5 years, like, I should be slapped, you know, like, it's so
same here. I've been made fun of so many times that you stayed in Calcutta for 5 years. I survived with only one line, Ami Bangla bushte pare na. That's it. That's the Bengali exposure.
It was such a mistake. And I mean, you can always go back. There's no, but if you're there, you're already there, like, you know, really make the most of it. And I made like a tiny, I mean, no regrets, but one thing if I would say is, like, I stayed in the girls' hostel, and it's so easy to, not that I would stay another year in the hostel or anything like that, but when you do have those last few months together, it really hits you later. The proximity of just being able to talk to your girls when you need them, and now having to sort of schedule those calls and stuff like that, it's like, just don't take that for granted. I would say be so intentional about, your last few months in college, because these guys stick around and they stick around for good and for long. So just be a little more intentional about it. I'm learning that now. Like, I'm not very good at that. So I'm learning how to be intentional about also making sure that I stay in touch and not take that for granted. But since you do have time in that hostel, plus the hostel I saw recently, you guys have such a nice bathroom. And I was like, what the?
Yeah, it was 5-star. I mean, they have washing machines and
The bathroom is just
and
it's become a 5-star.
Heaters and
Yeah.
one of my issues with the hostel was just the bathroom. So in my mind, if that is solved, like, you can like really kill it there. But it's just that, like, jokes apart, to be just intentional, like that proximity of having the girls around it just vanishes overnight. So just enjoy it.
When Akshata mentioned hostel, I was scared she'll say escape to the boys' hostel at least once. I was too scared she's
For
gonna say.
sure. For sure, it's like silly, but it's this. And honestly, in your fifth year, nobody cares. What will they show cause and say? Like, get out, you're leaving anyway. But
Yeah, so
yeah.
this is something that was unheard in our time. Yeah, but now I've heard that it's pretty much like a regular thing.
Okay, Pranjal, you want to add something?
No, I echo the same sentiment from the other seniors. Yeah, I'll just say, take everyone's advice, but do finally apne man ka. There's a thing in Hindi where so no sabki karo man ki, but because really what works for you after, like, so that, just be mindful of that. There's a lot of information overload around us, so just do what under say your intuition finally believes. Go.
All right. That was amazing. Thank you everyone for joining today. And I'm sure the participants, whatever questions they had, we'll put the recording on YouTube later so that others who couldn't join can watch it, because today was a working day for some of them and some had their exams. So they will be able to get the insights later. And thank you once again for taking out time. All the very best for your ventures, and let's all stay in touch. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.